Reject the worldly idea of becoming a great musician, just live music. That is a quote from the bassist Mono Neon, and I find it extremely interesting, and I wanted to have a discussion as to what he's really trying to say here. I wanted to talk about this trend that I've been seeing in the world of music and seeing within myself, this kind of pressure to become the best musician in the world. And that might sound crazy, but I just wanted to kind of share some ideas with you, and hopefully you can share your own ideas on this subject to help me and to help other people kind of understand what Mono Neon is really trying to say here. His playing makes me want to quit. So maybe you've seen this comment online before, or maybe you've even made this comment. This comment perfectly articulates what I'm trying to communicate here with this point, right? We live in the age of chops. We live in the age of short form content, and short form content is a shorter window of time that we have to kind of show off our skills and abilities online. And what I'm finding is that a lot of musicians are kind of showing off their best, showing off the best tricks that they have so that they can, win more viewers and win more subscribers. And I'm definitely guilty of this too. I make YouTube videos and I've tried to show off my skills in those videos, right? That's fine, that's perfectly natural. But I think the problem is that we get inundated with the best in the world. I see all of these crazy players just ripping it up with insane chops and insane technical ability. And I go through this cycle where I first feel a little bit discouraged. I'm like, oh man, I have so much more to practice on my instrument. And then I flip the script and say, I have so much more to practice on my instrument. I need to practice 4, 5, 6 hours a day. And so I do that. I go into this unsustainable practice routine. I inevitably burn out, and then I feel even worse about my playing. And this is a cycle I've found myself in plenty of times in my music journey. Now here is where I wanted to bring up the Dunning-Kruger Effect, and it is a graph that looks like this, right? So as you progress, you feel like you're making a lot of progress and things are going really well, but then it starts to dip and you feel discouraged because you can see just how far the journey is, just how long the journey is, how much work you have to put into the craft to actually get where you want to go. And this is just how the path of mastery is, right? It's not this steady upward incline. It's almost like you have this incline and then you plateau and then you dip a little bit before another explosive incline and then you plateau again. I've always tried to arrive somewhere on my instrument. I've always tried to reach that level of skill and mastery, but I never reach it. And why is that the case? Because the path of mastery is infinite. There is no destination. There is only a journey, right? We never arrive. Maybe we do arrive eventually, right? Some of us do arrive. Maybe you have already arrived. But for most of us, we're on the journey. We are on the path of mastery. And because we live with social media in the age of chops, there's always going to be someone who's younger than you and who's better than you. And it makes you feel inadequate about your own playing. And so you want to practice harder, constantly chasing for that next level of skill. And so I've found in my own journey that when I'm chasing after that next level of skill, I never reach it. And my music doesn't really connect with people. And I'm not satisfied with my own music. But when I just relax and just accept where I am in my own music journey and accept my own skills and be grateful for what I've already built as a musician, that's when I feel much more fulfilled as a musician. And that's when my music really starts to connect with people. And I think that it's because when I'm in that state, I'm not trying to prove anything. I know on my journey, there have been plenty of times when I've come from this egoic place of trying to prove myself, my worth, and my skill as a person and as a musician, right? I've spent years grinding, practicing, working on the craft. I've made all of these YouTube videos. I've got all of these ideas. And there have been times when I've tried to kind of, impose that on other people. I've tried to show others, look at my skill, look at my ideas, right? Validate me, right? But I find that when you come from that place, it almost has the opposite effect. It doesn't work. It almost like pushes people away. And I've found that when you just allow yourself to be, when you just accept who you are today, when you accept how things are today and you're okay with that, you understand that you are already valuable You already have it all inside. You don't need to prove it to anybody. You are enough as a musician. You are enough with the level of skill that you have today. And when you come from that angle, you attract people to your music. People really connect with your music. But when you're trying to wrestle for things to be a certain way, when you're trying to show people, look at my level of skill, look how good I am at my instrument I've practiced for so many years, you don't have to prove it. Your skills speak volume, literally. So this is a matter of taming the ego, right? This was one of the biggest lessons that I learned when I studied music at university. I'll leave a link to that video below if you want to check that out. But I think it's really important to tame your ego and develop that humility and just be humble and just accept where you are today. Know your worth, know that you're already valuable as you are today. But with all of that said, we are still striving for greatness. Don't get me wrong here. You want to accept where you are today and know your worth today, but you still want to do the work to actually get better, right? It's still a path of mastery, and if you want to reach those higher levels, you need to put in the work to practice, right? We already know that. So we still want to become great musicians, right? In my own journey, I have fallen into this kind of fantasy of wanting to become the best musician in the world. And that might sound crazy, but it's just this kind of fantasy I've had of like, yeah, I want to be the greatest, right? You want to be the GOAT, the greatest of all time, the best in the world. But what I'm saying here in this video is that it's actually impossible. You can't become the best in the world. You can't become the greatest of all time. We're dealing in the arts. We're dealing in music, right? Music and the arts, it's all subjective. So to one person, you might be the greatest in the world. But to a bunch of other people, you might be just another musician. So yes, definitely strive for greatness and work hard on honing your craft, but reject the worldly idea of becoming a great musician, right? Just live music. I'm proposing here that we broaden our understanding of the craft and take a more holistic approach. I've found in my own journey that when I strive to be the best in the world, I tend to focus on the more flashy and impressive stuff, believing that that is what will show my skill to other people. But I've found, as I've matured in my music journey, that there is actually so much more to the craft. There is so much more to the picture, and there are so many things that I've been neglecting over the years that I think are just as important as the chops, and I wanted to share some of those with you. The first example is when I started practicing jazz piano. I was learning all of these kind of advanced tricks, right? These licks and these kind of, cool chords and chord extensions, right? And that was all good and well. But when I tried to execute it, it just kind of flopped. It didn't sound good, right? Because I didn't have a very strong technical foundation. I had actually neglected my technique. I had neglected the basics of the piano for so many years. And here I was trying to play all of these advanced things, and my foundation was so weak. My technique was so poor. I couldn't even execute the advanced stuff, right? So this is a really classic example. Definitely don't neglect the basics. Don't neglect the technical foundation of your instrument. That's literally the most important thing. Then there is articulation and dynamics, right? We want to be able to articulate our notes. We want to be able to articulate our emotions. What are we trying to communicate with the music, right? And really express that with our notes and with how we apply dynamics to our performance and to our music, right? We want to think about our timing and our time feel. We want to develop a sense of pocket. How do you feel time? How do you play time? You want to focus on having a really good tone and refining your tone. That's literally what people hear, right? So we want to make our tone really good and kind of original, right? Find our own sound. We want to be able to deliver a really great musical performance, right? Whether that's on stage or whether that's recording music, we want to be able to deliver it, right? Allow the music to flow forth from us. We want to be able to tell a really good story. You see how there are all of these areas of the craft, and I've found in my own journey that I've neglected a lot of these. I neglected time feel, I neglected tone, I neglected articulation, and I was focused on the chops. But as you can hopefully see here, there is so much more to the picture. And I find that often a lot of people actually neglect these areas. So what I'm saying here is that if we actually focus on these areas, right, maybe even focusing on our own authentic expression, right, becoming a unique musician, an original musician, maybe finding a way to be comedic or humorous in your music, right? How can we do that? These are all original things, right? If we focus on these things, we can become what I like to call a Swiss Army knife musician, a very versatile musician, a very solid musician. And then lastly, we want to relax into the process, okay? So do what you need to do to establish like a daily routine or a daily habit or practice or whatever to ensure that you are progressing on your path of mastery and honing your craft. But then just relax into it. Just allow it to be. Allow it to unfold naturally. Allow time to chip away at your craft, and eventually, the curtain will be revealed. Your music will be there for people to hear, see, and appreciate. And you don't have to impose that on anybody. Yes, in a sense you do. You have to like market yourself. You have to get your name out there, get your music out there so that people will find you. But it's more kind of like a heart posture thing, right? So the final takeaway here is to live a musical life, to reject the worldly idea of becoming a great musician. Just live music. Just allow music to flow forth from you. Just accept how things are today. Just know that you are enough today. Know that where you are today, literally right now in this moment, you are enough. You are enough. Your skills are enough. You've got there. You have arrived, right? I said earlier in the video that there is no arrival. When you're striving, when you're chasing, there is no arrival. When you're accepting, when you're grateful, you have arrived. Do you see what I'm saying here, right? And then make music from that space, because that's when it's going to be so powerful. That's when it's going to connect with people, right? So just be a musician. Be grateful for this gift of music that we have to explore and engage with, and that we get to share with other people. Don't chase after the worldly things like money and fame and success and validation. I'm not saying those things are bad. Definitely reach towards those things, but don't chase them. They will come naturally, right? Because we provide value to the world. We provide so much value to the world, right? The world would be colorless and flavorless without music. We bring dance to the world. We bring revelation. We bring like peace and bliss and wonder and awe, right? We bring communities together. But first, in order to bring these things to other people, we must discover them within ourselves. And we do that by living music. So that's the end of the video. I would love to hear your thoughts on this subject. I really think it's so interesting. I think everyone has something unique to say about this, right? Because music is life. Like there's so much more to the picture than just playing an instrument, and non-musicians don't understand just how deep this goes, right? So please let me know your thoughts below. I'd love to hear them. I'd love to see what you have to say about this. And that's about everything for this video. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to vibe and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.